How can I make this into something funny? This is the question you should be asking in almost every situation to go from boring to hilarious in college. The problem is you don't let yourself. You might be scared of looking like an idiot. You might not know what to say. You might take yourself too seriously. I experienced all of these things when I first came to college. I did not see myself as a funny person. I thought humor was something you were born with. God zapped you into existence, rolled a d20, and if it was above a 19, you were funny. And if it wasn't, you were not. I took myself way too seriously. This made it hard to make friends at college. I grew up in a small rural town where I was friends with the same people since kindergarten. So when I came to college, I had zero idea how to make friends. I would literally talk to people and stare at them blank-faced as if I was some serial killer, assassin, with no idea what to say. I had to construct humor into my life intentionally. And thankfully, over time, as I started doing stand-up, as I started doing speech and debate, as I started doing Toastmasters, ultra speaking, taking courses like Charisma University, I became so much more humorous. But I started from the bottom. I remember the first time I ever went to stand up, I was terrified. I was walking down the slope from Cornell to the stand up. My heart was pounding out of my chest. Felt like I was about to go into cardiac arrest, and I was 19. So I texted my brother. I told him, if I don't go to this stand up, I have to give you $500. And he texted me back saying, maybe you don't have to go to the stand-up. Take a chill day. Have a coconut, go out on a nice little blanket and just chill. I did not follow his advice, thankfully. I went down, did the stand-up. It was terrifying. I did not bomb like I thought I would. And every other time I went, it was so much easier. I realized that humor was like a video game. Like in a video game, you can break down humor into discrete goals and steps and principles that you can follow, ingrain into your life to become more humorous. So I set out to build these first principles. And as I built them into my life, I started to see the world differently. I came to it as a humorous place rather than something super serious all the time. But the thing that frustrated me is there wasn't a video with a ton of these principles just lined out super easily that I could watch. I had to find them myself by analyzing humor. So that's what this video is. This video is a summation of everything I wish I'd known when I first got into becoming more humorous. I've listed out all of the humor first principles in this video with examples. I'm going to talk about why you should become funnier in the first place. I'm going to talk about the mindsets that you need to become funnier. And finally, I'm going to end with some action items. So once again, this is the video I wish I had 3 years ago when I first came to college to become more humorous. And now you get to have it in the next hour, hour and a half. I don't know how long this is going to be, but you're going to learn it a lot faster than I did. So why should you become funnier? Seems like a stupid question, but so many people disregard this skill in the first place. I have a few reasons, and the first one is it makes you more likable. You know the guy or the girl or the person, we use many pronouns in this channel, that is hilarious at a party, a social event, they draw everyone in. You don't know how they do it. They just seem to, like a magnet, just attract people around them. They might even be an introvert, but even when they're in these social settings, they just draw people around them magically. It's because humor makes you likable. People like those that make them laugh because they get brought out of the normal dreariness of everyday life and into the bliss that is humor and funniness. And that was a horrible joke, but I tried my best. So humor brings people out of the everyday gloom that they are in from their normal working day of going to school and doing tests and homework, or going to a 9 to 5 and drinking crappy coffee and saying hi to the same coworker over and over again. So that's one reason to build humor. Secondly, it makes you more attractive if you're a guy or a girl. In fact, it might even make you more attractive as a girl, because as guys, generally we are considered to be the ones that have to initiate actions romantically. So if a girl has humor, it is rare and it is incredibly attractive to guys. I can say from personal experience. The reason it makes you attractive is one of the principles of attraction is building emotional tension or sexual tension. And that is built when there is valence in emotion. If you're all serious inside of a date, trust me, I've done this before. It is so cringe. Like you're like an interviewer on the other side of the screen. The girl shows up to the date, and you're like, so why don't you show me your resume? What was your GPA in first year of college? Where do you work? Right? That is going to sap your energy from the date immediately. Compared to showing up to a date and it might be raining outside, pouring, horrible time for a debate. But the first thing you say when you see the girl is, "Isn't it a gorgeous day today?" Instant laugh. Then you hug them. And then later on in the conversation, you might go deeper into some values, some serious stuff. So you see how you've changed the emotion? You've gone from high to low to high to low. If you can vary that up, anyone's going to be more attracted to you. So makes you more likable, makes you more attractive. It also deepens your relationship with others because humor connects people. One of the big reasons we laugh is because humor can sometimes be a commentary on social norms. Many other reasons something is funny, but that is one of many. It can also be a political commentary. So if you can make something humorous out of a social norm or a political norm, you can connect with someone else. And that can deepen your relationship with friends, family, romantic relationships, strangers, anyone. It makes you better at persuading. How many times have you been in a presentation setting? The person goes up to give the presentation and they read word for word off of the slides. You want to die. It is so boring. Now compare that to someone that goes up and they're punching jokes with every single sentence that they say. They also have evidence to back up what they're stating. They got it all mixed up into this beautiful little sludge, and it makes it so much more engaging. People that have humor in their speeches are so much more persuasive. Which leads to the next point. Humor makes you a better leader. All the reasons mentioned before combine to make you a better leader if you're humorous. Your people that are working for you will respect you more because you show, if you can be humorous, that you don't take things too seriously. And what this allows people working for you to do is relax. right? It doesn't mean they don't work hard, but it allows them to understand you're not going to baton them if they don't get their work in on time, right? You're a chill person. Finally, bonus, it makes you happier. To be humorous, you have to change the way you perceive the world fundamentally. You stop seeing it as just a serious place and start seeing it as more rainbows and sunshine. I'm joking. You start just seeing it as more positive, not positive, but humorous overall, right? Normal everyday situations like ordering coffee from a barista or getting some food from the grocery market or saying hi to your friend suddenly become reservoirs of humorous potential. Everything becomes more playful. You start to become happier as a result. So those are all the reasons you should become funnier. Now, what are some mindsets that we can ingrain to do so? Because so many people don't become funny, me included in them, because their mindsets are wrong at the beginning. They think I'm not a funny person. They think I am too serious. They think that's not for me. It's for other people. So what are the mindsets we can ingrain? The first and most important is see the world as a funny place. This goes with what I just said. There's opportunity for humor in every situation. The reason that you aren't humorous is not because there isn't things you can make fun of. It's because you aren't recognizing them subconsciously. Humor is so difficult when you are starting out because you have to consciously do it with every joke you make. You have to think, how can I make this funny? Whereas the best comedians, the people that are most humorous, have ingrained to their very subconscious that they are funny. And therefore, they don't even have to think when they make a joke. They just say it. So often, what separates people that are funny from who are not is not necessarily that they know how to make a better joke. It's that they've released the filter that keeps them from saying something stupid in a social setting. This is going to mean you say some stupid stuff at the beginning and even further on. But releasing that filter overall is going to make you so much funnier. Second mindset, realize nobody cares. There is a psychological effect called the spotlight effect, which is the effect where everyone thinks there is a massive spotlight coming on them. I just realized there is literally a massive spotlight on me because the light for this video is so I am the exception in this one case, but there is a massive spotlight coming on people and they think everyone is watching what they do and what they say. So therefore they can't do anything stupid. Otherwise someone will see. Nobody cares. Literally nobody cares. You are inside of your head 24/7. So you think that people are watching and listening to what you say or do. But the paradox is everyone else is doing that, so nobody actually is. That's not to say you can do whatever you want. Anarchy, yes, let's raid the store for ramen noodles. No, that's a bad idea. Aiden does not approve. What it does mean is you can get rid of your filter because people are not going to judge you as much as you think. And if someone does judge you for saying one off comment because you were trying to build more humor, become more humorous, you shouldn't be friends with them. Like, sure, don't say some really racist stuff, but if you make one mistake and you accidentally say something stupid, they shouldn't hold that against you, especially if you explain to them why. Last mindset, develop a growth mindset. A growth mindset is something defined by Carol Dweck in her 2006 book, Mindset, which is the idea that we can increase our skills, our intelligence through purposeful hard work. We are not born with a fixed intelligence, fixed humor level. This is different from a fixed mindset, which is that our skills, our intelligence is genetic and cannot be changed. So people with a fixed mindset shudder from failure because they don't want to be put face to face with how bad they are at something. Whereas people with a growth mindset love failure because they understand failure is a part of the path to getting better at something. Same with comedy. You're gonna bomb. You are gonna have jokes that you say to your friends. You go up on stage for a stand-up and people are going to not laugh. It's going to suck. But that is good because those failures often help you more on the route to becoming funnier than having laughs with everything you do. So those are the 3 mindsets for becoming funnier. Now, for what you've been waiting for. What are some humor first principles? I have gone through tons of courses and stand-up episodes on Netflix, and I have broken down what makes something funny into actionable principles that you can use directly after watching this video. And what you'll start to realize from watching this is that humor is a skill that you can build through purposeful effort. And simply by using these principles, you can become funnier instantaneously. However, what makes the funniest people funnier than the rest, funniest people funnier than the rest, that was a stupid statement, is they connect and combine these first principles together to make them better than the sum of their parts, or different from the sum of their parts. So while taking these principles will help you become funnier, standalone, it is the combination of them and the ingraining of them to your very subconscious that is going to make you that next level funny. So let's get into the first principles. The fundamental humor theory that I have found explains almost why something is funny. It doesn't explain everything, in my opinion, but it does explain why tons of stuff is the benign violation theory of humor. This states that things are funny when they are benign, a violation of something, and they happen simultaneously. Benign means that something is not offensive enough that you don't want to laugh, but just offensive enough, just enough tension inside of it that you want to relieve that through laughter, right? This is why you don't hear 9/11 jokes that often, or Nazi jokes, because they're very risky. They can and often not be benign. They're too offensive. And then they're also a violation of something. This could be they violate a social norm. It violates an expectation. If something is benign and a violation of something at the same time, that's when there's humor. Keep in mind, this is heavily context dependent. The audience determines what is considered benign or a violation or not. Something that's funny in one context, not going to be funny in another. What's funny to college students isn't the same thing as what's funny to 60 or 70-year-olds most of the time. So what's a good example of this? Let's say you're a TED speaker and you open the talk that you're giving by saying, I want all of you to turn to your neighbor and start tickling them. The reason that's funny is it's benign. It's tickling. It's not that harmful. And therefore, it wouldn't be funny if you were like, I want you to turn to your neighbor and start just stabbing them just everywhere. That would not be funny. That's way too like, whoa, Jesus. Went from 0 to 100. It's also a violation of a social norm because usually you wouldn't tickle someone that you're sitting next to and don't know at a TED stage. But you know, because this is a TED talk, that it's probably just a joke. They don't actually mean for you to do that. So that's why it's funny. Now, there are tons of other reasons that something can be funny other than just the benign violation theory, but I think that's a really good summary of what makes something funny in principle. So, what is the other first humor principles that we can have? We're just going to go through them, and I'll give an example, I'll give stories for some of them, and you can just apply them. First, one of my favorites, build a world. This is where you build a world that is not real with someone and you play it out. I remember I was at a Halloween party at Cornell with my friend TJ. I was walking around looking for someone to talk to when I saw this person with a salamander on their head, paper cut. And I went up to them, and the first thing that came into my head, looked them straight in the eye, was, how much you feed that salamander every day? She's like, oh, usually around like 2 cups of food, but can't feed him that much because keeps getting busy from all my statistics homework. And I'm like, oh, maybe you just shouldn't feed the salamander at all. Just let him starve. And the fact that I said that, she was like, she went nuts, because most people in that situation would not say, let the salamander starve. Like, Jesus, that's horrible. But the neglect of the expectation, the subversion made it funny in the context. But we built a world. That salamander was a paper salamander. It wasn't real. However, in the world we built, it was. And by playing that out, it made it funny. Build a world. Great one. Great humor first principle. Next, give a crazy compliment. So you might say, I just wanted to say, you have the most beautiful toes I've ever seen. Fairies are jealous of those toes. They were blessed by celestial beings from the dawn of creation. Imagine saying that on your first date, seeing someone. The girl or boy would probably go bat crap, right? Because it's so over the top. It's just a crazy compliment that it's just insane, right? So that's a funny one to use, especially if you don't know someone that well. I think crazy compliment works so well because it's just like, what? Another one, implement irony. Irony is when two things go together that seemingly shouldn't. For instance, you read a newspaper article that says, fire station gets destroyed by fire. It's ironic because you would think a fire station would not get destroyed by fire. And yet it did. So that's irony. Next, use sarcasm. Sarcasm is when you say something but mean the opposite. Now, one example of this is you show up to a lunch with a girlfriend and it's hailing. And the first thing you say is, isn't it beautiful? Hail, by most people's perception, would not be considered beautiful. It would not be considered nice to get hailed on. But saying something sarcastic, the opposite of what you mean, with a smile, hopefully, and some accent of some sort, is going to be funny. Now, there is a big risk of sarcasm backfiring. So you have to be super careful with sarcasm when you use it, because most people aren't good at detecting sarcasm. It's a very specific person that likes it. I love sarcasm. It's one of my favorite types of comedy. But I had a horrible backfiring of it a few years ago when I walked into my computer room at home. My mom was sitting at the computer. I'd just seen one of her YouTube videos. And she said, "What did you think of the video?" So I look her in the eyes and I say, I thought it was trash. I thought that was a funny joke, and I thought she was gonna laugh. But she thought I was serious, so she got really mad. She was like, what do you mean it's trash? And so I tried to explain to her that it was sarcasm, but after maybe a few minutes, she was convinced. However, it took a lot of convincing, and it would have been so much better if I had been more smiley, more accented when I say it, because I said it with a straight face. So try not to do that with sarcasm, especially if you don't know the person you're talking to. If you know them as a friend, you know if they get sarcasm or not. It's easier to get away with without smiling or doing an accent. But if you do it with straight-faced, with just like that, oh man, you're gonna get slapped. So that's sarcasm. Another one, body humor. Now, this one's pretty self-explanatory, but I'm gonna show you an example of body humor as I play you a phenomenal song that you are going to love. Let's see here. I'm just gonna get it up right now. You are going to love this song when I find it in my... There it is. I think you get the idea, right? That right there is body humor. Hopefully that was entertaining to you. It might have been downright embarrassing, and you probably wanted to stab me and never watch my videos again. That might have been going from 0 to 100 as well. But the body humor inside of that is what made it funny to watch, hopefully. That's how body humor works. It's just making something funny by doing a bodily motion while you do it. This is especially funny if you combine it with building a world or with accents, which we'll get to. That's when body humor enters its next level, because it makes a character. Characters are hilarious. So body humor. Next, I love this one. Accents. This one's a self-explanatory, just saying something but with an accent. The beauty of accents is they can make something that's not funny on its own in writing funny simply because of the accent that you use. So a warning with this, don't do accents of cultures that you are a little bit distant from, right? I would not try and do a Chinese accent, because if I did, I would get canceled. However, doing a Scottish or a Russian or a British accent or an Australian one, I feel like it's a little bit better. Still might get canceled, but not as likely. So with a Scottish accent, you mates, if we want to survive the winter, need more potatoes. There's so few things to eat nowadays. We're going through famine. As you can see, my Scottish accent is something I'm practicing, and I need to grow more potatoes if I want enough food to survive the winter. The writing itself was dog crap. Like, that was not funny at all. If I say it right now, like, I need more potatoes to survive the winter, why would you laugh to that? But doing it in a Scottish accent makes it so much more funny. Then we have Russian accent. I hold this accent particularly close to my heart because there's a story behind this. I was at a jiu-jitsu fighting class with my brother. First time ever. Walk in, and I get paired with this guy named Lincoln. 230-pound giant. This guy looks like he lifts weights for relaxation. Right? So I wanted to make a good first impression by telling him that this was my first time, so he wouldn't take me too seriously. But I thought it would be funny if I did it in a Russian accent so that he would know, like, I'm joking, I'm a playful guy, and I don't want you to, like, destroy me. So I was like, this is my first time. Do not kill me, please. I've never done jujitsu before. It would be a little bit rude if you bashed my head in. So I told him that. I thought it was going to be great after I said that. We start wrestling. 2 minutes. Nothing bad is happening. He's taking it real easy on me. I'm like, okay, this is fun. I love jujitsu. I'm going to do this more often. 3 minutes in, this man, he looks me in the eyes. And I can see this glint, this mischievousness inside of them. And I think, oh no, shit is about to go down. Next thing I know, he takes his right hand, jabs at me, grabs my tricep right here, and rips it as hard as he can towards him. He tumbles me to the ground and puts me into a chokehold where I turn what I think is blue in just 4 seconds of being suffocated. I tap him on the back. Thankfully, he lets go, realizing I've surrendered. I had a bruise on my tricep for 3 weeks. I was dying. I did not go to jujitsu again. But at least I did the Russian accent. So the accent did not work. If anything, it made him more aggressive. Maybe that's just what Russian accents do. But accents are a phenomenal thing for your humor repertoire. Next thing, odd timing. It's kind of in the name. A good example is, I am the fastest talker in the world. That one combines sarcasm inside of it as well, because you mean the opposite of what you're saying. But the timing of it is what makes it funny. The next humor principle is incongruence. A happy Cornell student, a white woman at a sushi restaurant, two things that are together that don't seemingly go together. It's similar to irony, but how do I explain that it's different? I don't know how to explain how that's different from irony per se, but saying that a fire station goes up in flames is just somehow different than saying a happy Cornell student. I don't know what it is. But incongruence, another great humor first principle. Another one, exaggeration. A few days ago, I was talking to a girl, really cute, after doing a 90-mile Adirondack canoe race. And I knew she was into outdoor activities. So I asked her what other outdoor activities that she had done and exaggerated. I was like, if you've done the 90-miler, like, what else have you done? Hiked Everest in 3 hours? Walked to the moon? Swung like Tarzan in the Amazon rainforest? She thought it was really funny. She had a boyfriend, which made me sad, but the exaggeration was what made the joke funny. So if you can find a way to heighten or de-heighten extremely, then it'll be funny. Another great principle. Next, we have character bit, which combines the accent, the body humor from before into one. And you can do a character bit of someone that already exists, or you can make up your own character and play with that. I love making up my own character. One of my classic characters that I have in my humor belt is a assassin Viking. And he sounds like this. I want to rip out your throat and eat it for breakfast. And he sounds kind of like he
He smoked way too much when he was young, but he does not smoke anymore.
That's my assassin Viking voice. I'm sorry if you're terrified now, but he's one of my favorite characters that I play. You might be overwhelmed thinking, wow, like there's infinite characters that I could do. How do I choose what character to do for my humor? Here's the best part. There are like millions of ways you can use your voice. It's honestly insane. And if you just pick like 20 voices and you mix and match them, you just get really good at those voices. The likelihood that someone else has those same voices is literally like 0. So choose a few voices, make some, get good at maybe some characters that people know, and then make your own, a few of your own, and then just use those. And you're going to create like this little niche for yourself of interesting characters that you can play. Another great humor first principle is comparisons. A good example of this is from a story about why I dropped out of chemistry at Cornell. I'm not going to tell the whole story, but there's one part where my chemistry teacher is explaining that he was studying for a prelim in a library when the Heisenberg, the one that came up with the uncertainty principle, came up to him and asked him out to dinner. And he said no, because he wanted to study for the prelim instead. Dr. Heisenberg died 3 weeks later. So he never got to eat dinner with Dr. Heisenberg. And to put that in perspective, that's like if Michael Jackson came back from the dead and told you that he was going to create your own special music album for you. But you said, nah, I got to go to the dentist. So that joke is funny because you compare the situation of what happened to my chemistry teacher and Dr. Heisenberg with one that's more relatable. Like we all know Michael Jackson. We all could have gone to the dentist, right? But we might not necessarily have had Dr. Heisenberg coming to us and asking if we want to go to dinner. So comparisons, especially between things that are one relatable, one maybe not relatable, are funny because it's easier to laugh to something that's relatable. Next principle is saying normal things in new words. I was at Chipotle a bit ago, and when they asked me for my order, most people would say, yeah, can I just get like a burrito or some nachos or something? I was like, could I get that metal circle with a bit of land meat in it? And the person working the station looked at me with like the most confused expression, and then they started just bursting out laughing. They were like, what are you on? And it was because I said normal thing, which is just like a metal bowl is just like a plate with some land meat. You mean like steak? So saying normal things in new words makes them funny. Next humor principle is role play. This is like building a world, but specifically it usually has a bit more it requires a bit less context than building a world, because building a world you really are limitless. Like you can do anything you want. Like you could build a world where you are like a magic alien, like whatever creature, and the other person is like a plant or something. Whereas role play, it's more like you're role playing something that both people probably know a bit more. So like two of my favorite things to role play is role playing as a professional. This one's so easy to use. Like you can be walking with someone, and as you're about to enter a building, you start walking quicker to open the door, and you're like, I got this. I'm a professional. And you open the door, and they go in, and they start clapping. They're like, wow, you know how to open a door, right? It's really funny when you say you're a professional for something that there isn't like a profession for, or you just did something like you're about to do something really stupid, and then you say, don't worry, I'm a professional, to like validate it. And then another one is if you're at a party and you go up to someone that might be drunk or sober, and you're like, I'm the sober police. I'm going to need to check your breath. And it's funny because you're not actually a police officer, but they can run with that in whatever way they want. You can really get some bantering going. So role playing, another great humor principle. Next is misdirection. A perfect example of this was I was walking through a library with one of my friends at Cornell, and I said, I'm really good at focusing. Wow, what's that book? It's funny because I direct them to me being good at focusing, and then I'm immediately like, whoa, what's that book? Like getting distracted immediately after saying it. So it's a misdirection. It's another really great humor principle. It's a little bit harder to use, I find, compared to something like comparisons or odd timing or accents, but it's fun when you use it. The rule of three. This is not just a humor principle, it's also just a fundamental like principle of communication. Is things in threes are much easier to remember than almost any other configuration. So in humor context, it's that you say three things, but one of them usually doesn't fit with the others. One of these is not like the other. So a good example is my family and I celebrated a very traditional Thanksgiving this year. We cooked a turkey, some stuffing, and then gathered our neighbors and murdered them. The third one is obviously out of place, but it's funny because you say a very traditional Thanksgiving this year. And as we know, Thanksgiving, the people that came to America, the colonials, did not treat the Indians very well. So that's why you say traditional Thanksgiving dinner. And that can be applied to so many things, right? This is just a one you're going to see all the time when you start watching more humor is the rule of three. The last principle, we've gotten to all of them, and there might be more. There probably is. This is just a list of all the ones that I've found, is commit to your joke a little longer than you think. This goes back to the mindsets of becoming funnier. So many people stop their joke short because they're scared of getting judged, right? But that actually becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because the fact that they stopped makes it not funny. Sometimes a joke isn't funny until you say it 2 to 3 times. So tell the joke faster, longer than you think you have to. So good example. I recently started fasting, and my first fast was on the EU rail to Sweden, to the Netherlands from Sweden. I was hungry, like hungry. This guy and his child sat down next to me with a bag of potato chips. I swear, if everyone looked away at the same moment, I could eat that man right there. I'm not a glutton. Like, I wouldn't eat the whole thing. Just a hobbit-sized snack. And then second breakfast, and then third breakfast, and then fourth breakfast. Okay, I'd eat the whole body. But he would fuel my sustenance needs for years. So that joke got a little absurd at the end there, but it might not have been funny with the first line. However, as I kept committing to it, it became funnier and funnier, hopefully, over time. That's what ends up making the joke funny, is committing to it so many times over and over and over again. A couple action items for you after watching this video. How can you take these principles and become more humorous yourself? First, start asking, how can I make this funny in every interaction? This is going to change your view of the world. You're going to stop seeing it as just a serious place and start seeing it as a more humorous one. Secondly, do 10 minutes of sentence crafting for 3 months. This is where you say a sentence and then immediately say another sentence using the first word of that sentence. So as an example, fishes are like water. Water is wet. Wet is something you get when water goes on you. You are a large T-Rex. The point is not that it makes sense. The point is that you keep saying something from the next thing. And that is going to get rid of your filter, which is, as we know, the biggest problem keeping people from being more humorous is they have such a filter on what they say that they don't say the funny thing because they're scared that someone's going to judge them when they say it. And then finally, take one of the humor first principles and work on it for a day. Then choose another on the next. Do this over and over again and repeat this cycle once you've finished, but start doing more at once. By focusing on just one humor principle a day, it's going to make it so much easier to keep to be able to ingrain that into your subconscious. If you try and do all of them at the same time, you're going to be overwhelmed. So do those 3 action items, and I guarantee you will be so much funnier after even a few weeks. But it's really a lifelong game. Humor is an infinite game, and it's gonna make you so much happier as a result if you can bring joy not only to others but also to yourself because you see the world as more funny. So I hope this video was helpful. As always, eat some peanut butter and have a phenomenal rest of your day.